Welcome to the Nantucket Summer Forum in this beautiful room on a beautiful day, except for the humidity. My name is Scott Wilson. I'm the Vice President of the Nantucket Civic League, and we welcome you all today. The Civic League is a 501c3 organization that's been around since 1904, and we sponsor this as well as several other things, including the Meet the Articles Forum and the Meet the Candidates Forum before every town meeting or town election, as the case may be. And twice every summer we have a President's Breakfast on a Saturday morning, one in June and one in August, where all of the 25 homeowners associations on Nantucket that are members of the Civic League get together and exchange ideas and problems, and I have found it to be incredibly useful. I'm the president of the Naushop Homeowners Association, and our problems are nothing like the problems they have in a number of the other associations around the island. So it's a great way to exchange ideas, and I love the Civic Association for its ability to sort of bring people together like today to do this. Our format today is first, we'll hear from the Select Board. Every one of the 5 Select Board members will speak in turn. About 10:05, we'll stop and take questions from the audience for about 15 minutes, and then we'll turn it over to our town manager, Libby Gibson, for her presentation with her department heads. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to Brooke Moore, the chairman of the Select Board.
Good morning and welcome. We're always pleased when the community shows up to listen to us, occasionally on Wednesday nights and annually at this event. So I think I'll lead off and then I'll pass it on to my colleagues. We have a strategic plan that has 5 areas of focus. And this year we've done something new. The town manager has identified a select board member to be the lead on an area of focus of the strategic plan, and she's set up teams of town administration staff with a leader and other team members. And so my team in the environmental leadership strategic plan category includes the focus area leader Jeff Carlson, and the team members are Christopher Lowe, solid waste manager, Emma Morgan, water quality specialist, and Leah Hill, coastal resiliency coordinator. And as you listen to the elements of this strategic plan area, you'll understand why these folks are on the team. So I'm just going to go briefly through some of the big initiatives that we're involved in this area of focus. Probably the one I know the best is solid waste. I've been working with a team for, it'll be almost 2 years now, meeting regularly to prepare for the transition of the solid waste contract on December 1st of 2025. So we've been working hard on the request for proposals, and also in anticipation of that, putting forward to the community the recommendation that we purchase the assets that are owned by Waste Options, the current operator, including the composter and the transfer station, or what we commonly call the C&D building. Town meeting has approved the purchase of those, and that purchase will be executed in alignment with the transition over to the new solid waste manager, whether it's the new or existing. We'll see when the RFP. We've also spent a ton of time preparing the request for proposals, and that is out, and we're hoping to get a number of bidders on that. And that evaluation will be done, and a contractor will be selected going into the latter part of this year or early next year. And then the other thing that's happening there's a lot of things happening at solid waste, including a pilot program for food recycling and composting separate from, we now put all of our food waste, most of us, into our trash, and it goes through the composter. We're looking at maybe pulling that waste stream out, and Chris Lowe told me this morning that probably right after Labor Day, when all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, we'll start a pilot program for household food waste to see how collection and management of that waste stream might be done differently over time. The new RFP is really going to allow for flexibility in altering waste streams, both based on the choices we make as a community and also regulations as they come down from Massachusetts. There are currently 25 different collection streams that we're required to do, that we are doing, most of them required by the DEP, so things like tires, mattresses. I could go down the list. It's 25 different streams, so it's a very complex operation out there. And then the other thing that is on people's mind a lot is PFAS testing of the leachate out there. And we requested from the DEP 2.5 years ago to do a testing plan out there, and it took them the better part or more than 2 years to give us permission to do 2 rounds of testing. So in part that is because the state and federal regulators around PFAS are playing catch up, as are we as a community. So while PFAS has been known for a while, what you do about it is still evolving. And so we are working hard to stay ahead of the curve. And when I attended the Mass Municipal Association conference, and I know people in remediation in other areas like oil spill remediation, they say what we're doing is very ahead of the curve. The foam fractionation studies that are being done at the sewer plant, et cetera. So while it's scary, this looming problem of PFAS, our community should be reassured that we are doing everything we can within the regulatory frameworks that we have, and also are in the lead on that in a lot of ways. Water quality management is another huge component of our environmental leadership. And I think probably the quickest thing to summarize there is the addition of a number of data collection methodologies so that we're really feeding our management in terms of how we're doing with extensive data collection programming, and that's a growing and ongoing and monitored program. So knowing the health of our estuaries and harbors and ponds and monitoring for HABs and other things so that we are staying ahead of the curve and really keeping up on the different things we're trying to do, and then the methodologies we're using to try to improve them, we're able to track whether they're successful or not. So data in that area. And then I would say another really important thing is collaboration and coordination between the different areas and plans. In environmental leadership, we're looking at coastal resilience planning, hazard mitigation, the master plan, open space plan, transportation plan, and we're bringing all the pieces of the puzzle together to make sure that we're focusing our environmental leadership goal on all of the planning in the community. So, and I think that's a hallmark of what's been happening in our government is much more collaboration and coordination, interdepartmental, intercommittee, and bringing all these plans together so they're not hanging out on their own and separate from each other, and everybody's working together. So I would say that's where we are on environmental leadership, and I'm going to pass it to Tom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. Tom Dixon, Select Board member. My area is effective and efficient town operations, and my focus area leader is Rick Sears. He is here, the Assistant Town Manager, and we actually just met last week to discuss this area, and so we're putting together a presentation that will go in front of the Select Board either later in the summer or early in the fall. And I'm just going to read the aspirational statement that's in the strategic plan and then go through a couple of the goals and the strategies. So the aspirational statement is the town of Nantucket reflects the community value of fiscal responsibility in its operations. Governance is collaborative and representative on boards, committees, and commissions, is reflective of the diversity of our community, and engages the next generation of Nantucket leaders. Town employees provide vital municipal services that are valued by residents and visitors and engaged members of our community. Town facilities and offices incorporate modern technology and are efficient in design, energy use, and location. The town is committed to planning for a resilient and sustainable community and maintaining improving municipal infrastructure and assets. So there's several goals and strategies on how to, this is a very broad area, so there's quite a few of them, and by no means is this list exhaustive, but I'm just going to cover a couple of them this morning. So the first goal is support the municipal workforce. So first strategy would be to build a new DPW facility in a logistically efficient and coastal resilient location. That is very much needed, and there will be a new funding ask coming to town meeting 2025 to ask for the design and permitting work. Also, our DPW, our fantastic new DPW director, Drew Patnode is here, and I just want to also give him and his team a shout out for, and Libby and town admin for doing such a good job into returning the fountain to Main Street. That was on very short order, and it was really good work. So, little just side note. Second strategy, DEI. Establish MILE program, morale, inclusion, leadership, and equity to increase professional development, employee engagement, and organizational collaborations. This would include establish a DEI committee, which would be of town employees, and no problem. Yeah, we all need to look, make sure we're all on vibrate. Also, possible hiring of a new DEI director, all these acronyms, a DEI director. That is a fluid space. I know the chair is working on this with town admin. Yeah, and I think that sometimes DEI, folks may only think of it as diversity, but of course it is about many different parts of collaborative nature and cohesion in town government. So that is one area that we are working on in that space. The second goal is continue to evaluate compensation to support recruitment and retention efforts. This follows up with the complete classification and compensation study. I know that is being updated right now. Obviously very important that we can recruit and retain the best town employees to help our town and county run as efficiently as possible. They'll be using market data along with CPI to calculate any adjustments if necessary. And then a couple other ones that are a little broader, but continue to make strategic investments in municipal facilities in alignment with the facilities master plan, including develop a 3-year plan for building maintenance. This includes an inventory and existing conditions, and RFP envelope work is being developed. Second strategy would be Our Island Home. I know my colleague Dawn is working very hard on this along with the committee. We had a presentation at Select Board last week for the update on the design spec. That's very much worth watching if anybody is interested. And then goal 4 is continue to invest in technology and cybersecurity. Obviously, that is ongoing and very important to make sure that the town's digital assets are taken care of. And then lastly, in goal 5, to increase diversity of municipal board, commission, and committee members, streamline onboarding and orientation processes. This is kind of an emerging area that I think that I'll be working on with town admin. Obviously, we want to make sure that our boards and commissions and committees are that folks have the ability to get onboarded as efficiently as possible and to know exactly their scope and to make sure they get sworn in, et cetera, et cetera. So that's something that I'm very much concerned about is the future of folks who serve on town boards. It's a lot of work. A lot of these boards are a significant time commitment, and it may require some mentorship or outreach from select board members to try and recruit some new folks into the town government. So those are my areas for this strategic plan area. I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Dawn.
Good morning. Just a little bit of history is our strategic plan. We started working on it in 2017, and we finalized the first plan in 2018. And the process that we use is every fall after we've been through a town election cycle and have a potentially reconstituted board and goals have been met and so forth, we sit back down and look at where we are, what we've accomplished, what's changed within the community's needs, and we reprioritize the 5 focus areas and the goals within them. And we'll be doing that again this October if anyone's interested in paying attention to that. Housing is the area I've been assigned to, which has been one of our number 1 priorities to try and create and preserve community housing. And the aspirational statement is Nantucket is a diverse community with a broad spectrum of economic circumstances and has housing stock that meets the range of needs. Year-round housing is achievable for everyone who works on the island, and the various tiers of affordable housing make year-round living comfortable, stable, and inclusive. Our seasonal workforce is able to find safe and secure housing. Homes on Nantucket are well constructed and integrated into the character of the island. So this is what we aspire to. We've made some strides, but we have a lot more work to do. There will be, Christy Ferrantella is our housing specialist. I don't see her here, but there she is. She's hidden back there. And more recently, Rachel Field was hired to be the rental manager. And a more extensive presentation will be coming at this week's select board meeting, but I wanted to hit some of the highlights for you today and see if people had any questions. Municipal housing is a major priority for our efficient town operations. As I said, we've hired the rental property manager, and she's managing all employee housing and identifying potential rentals that could be available to employees. We've started a database of employee needs across all departments, including the school. We've launched an employee housing needs survey to determine the need and the burden of housing costs on town employees. A seasonal dorm is about to be underway on a Waite Drive to address our seasonal housing challenges. Maintaining safe harbor continues to be a major priority. Our current period of safe harbor expires at the end of this year. 2 projects are being worked on to maintain the safe harbor status, both Tacoma Green and Gooseberry Place, which is part of the Richmond development. And this will remaining in safe harbor ensures that we're not subject to unfriendly 40Bs. We're currently at 5.37% of our 10% goal that is required by the state, but we hope that we will reach 7.5 by the end of this year, which is quite significant because when I started in 2015, we were at like 2.4%, I think, something around there. And also the year-round housing stock has increased, so our 10% has increased. The trust will be releasing RFPs for the development of the vacant land that's been able to be acquired, and that will be happening over the next few months. Some RFPs have been released and been unsuccessful and needed to be redone. The construction costs have become quite significant. The trust does recognize, as we as a board do, that we can't build our way out of the housing crisis. So we're looking at many ways to conserve year-round housing and convert seasonal underused housing to year-round occupancy. We are launching a year-round deed restriction pilot program to keep year-round homes in year-round hands. We're investigating a state's local option, which is a good landlord tax exemption, where if people are able to rent year-round at a reasonable rate, they could realize a tax abatement. And we're considering a grant to expand the Lease to Locals program that was started by Act Now. So those are all really good initiatives. Like I said, there will be an even more extensive presentation on Wednesday. And I would be a little bit remiss to not mention, I believe in terms of housing as well, the island home is something that's a very significant endeavor for our community. And we've been doing a lot of work on that. There was a presentation last week. And it's a very large number. It's a medical facility that has a lot of requirements. As I said, the cost of construction has increased very significantly. We're going to find as many ways as we can to sort of soften the blow of this this type of ask financially, but I feel like it would be very detrimental to Nantucket to lose the ability to house and care for the people who need it the most, and all of the families that would impact if we were forced into a situation where the current residents of the island home and future residents who are in a point in their life where they need to be there would have to go off island. And we're getting to the point where we have to build a new facility. And I really hope that the voters will support that. Thank you.
Matt?
All right, thanks. I'm on the transportation side of things, along with Drew Patnode and Mike Burns, and BPAC and a bunch of other people are involved in this. Our aspirational statement is Nantucket has no traffic lights. Year-round transportation includes accessible, affordable, and reliable multimodal options that respect the historical setting of our community and limits reliance on single-occupancy vehicles and private transportation. The town has improved safety and mobility without accommodating a car-centric culture. Pedestrians and bicyclists feel safe as they traverse along paths and walkways that abut our local roads. Our community embraced the use of technology to improve parking turnover in the whole historic district and made year-round access a pleasant experience. All right, so that we've, along these lines, and I know this time of year especially, this is the sort of the biggest complaint we all hear. You know, the traffic. We're in kind of that lull week where it's not so bad, but it's coming again, and so that's like something that we all know. Our goals: create a network of sidewalks that would allow people living in the Mid-Island and downtown core to access a range of services without the need of a car. There are a couple different projects that are going on there that we'll be seeing soon. One's on Sparks Ave. There's work going on Newtown Road. So we're working on that. We're trying to shift the mode from driving alone and promote the use of other modes. One of the biggest positives, I believe, that's happened, and we've talked about this for a while, but the NRTA is free this year. And so people can hop on and hop off. It's a little quicker because they don't have to take money, and ridership is up 80% or something. It may be double in July. I think that's a huge positive that we've talked about forever. We're going to continue to evaluate downtown parking management. And I was quoted in the paper this week. I haven't read it yet because I'm busy baking bread, but I will. And I'm busy running a business and doing this stuff. But I think I look at all of the parking and the transportation, I look at it as a math equation. It's a numbers equation. We only have so many miles of roads. We can only fit so many vehicles at any one time. And I've always thought of it that way. When we did the comprehensive plan in the 90s, we had consultants, and they came and they predicted how bad it would be on Old South Road and Surfside, et cetera. And us, Nantucket being Nantucket, we said, that'll never happen. It'll never be that bad. It'll never happen. No, not here. And we are past that point now on some of these. The projections prove to be correct. We're not building any more roads. We have done some good things with traffic circles, and we've rounded some corners, and that stuff has helped. But the reality is, again, it's a math equation that we are looking at. I think downtown parking management is part of the solution. I think it's get turnover downtown, so when you do come down, there's a space to park and it can turn over. There's been a lot of talk about, well, it will hurt the economy. Our economy will suffer if we don't allow unlimited cars, if we don't let everyone drive wherever they want and park on the sidewalks and do whatever they want. It's going to hurt the economy. Well, I had a lot of people contact me last week, and their businesses were suffering immensely. They were taking 45 minutes, 50 minutes for their employees to get to the job sites. They couldn't get from one side of the island to the other. I lost an account in my own business because the business couldn't get to something natural and pick up their products and get back in time. It wasn't worth their time. They were better off having Cisco or U.S. Food back a big truck up in their residential district and give them residential home and give them the food. So I think it has crossed a point, and I think we'll see it. My guess is we'll see it over the next, couple of weeks and into August, and I think we'll have to change. Change out here is hard, when we, and this is kind of, but it does happen. Like I remember 20 years ago, housing, we talked about, we're never going to have to house town employees. That will never happen. We won't need to do that. The market will fix it. Well, here we are 20 years later, and we are doing it, and the unions are agreeing, and we're working on it, and we've embraced it. You go back even further, and after the Great Fire, one of the summer people said, geez, I have a great idea. We can put a hose, and we can put a tank and put fires out with a hose. And of course, all of us Islanders said, nah, we can't do that. That won't work. No way that'll happen. So what he did is the proponent set up a tank up on the cliff, and he ran a hose, and he shot water over the top of the steeple at Congregational Church. And we went, oh, okay, I guess that might work. And we started putting in hydrants. And so some of the things we have to do in the transportation realm is going to take, so there's some outside thinking and some accepting that we might have to do things a little bit differently than we do now. It's also going to take a lot of public engagement, about public being included in these discussions, and I think that will happen. We're working on planning board's working on a master plan now, and it's going to be asking for public comment. I think it's important that people, participate and be involved with that process. If we all kind of, sort of tackle it together, I think there's a good chance that we can make some improvement on it. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Make sure you read it. Often you're misquoted. Okay? All right. Well, I'd like to, first, I'm quite proud and humble to be here thinking about on this particular stage. Because remember people like Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, Frederick Douglass spoke from this stage. And I think it's just great that I'm able to do that. I think years ago I never thought that I would be a select person, let alone speaking in the same place where these great men and great orators spoke. I'm not a great orator, but I will do my best. I have the Healthy and Vibrant Community, and Jericho Mealy is the Health Human Services Director, and he's the point person for this. The aspirational statement is actually quite aspirational. Nantucket is a vibrant and inclusive community committed to the health and well-being of our residents and visitors, where the process of policy making seeks to balance the diverse needs of the entire community. Well, actually, in many ways, we actually really only need this one focus area, because if you think about it, housing, environment, transportation, efficient government, they all contribute to a healthy and vibrant community. And we certainly have our differences about many issues, but I think that one thing we'll all agree on is we want and need to preserve a healthy and vibrant community. So what are the goals? Operationalize diversity, equity, and inclusion throughout the town. Expand the town's ability to deliver or support programs and services by evaluating partnership opportunities that promote healthy and active living. And enhance the town's ability to support local health and human services, nonprofit organizations. Well, if you think about it, we really depend on the nonprofits, and the nonprofits really supply the majority of the human services and support and so forth on the island. Our house, Nantucket Center for Elderly Affairs, Safe Place, Fairwinds, and certainly many, many others. I don't feel bad if I didn't mention your name, but they all contribute to the healthy island. And I think it's important that the town supports these organizations, and we certainly thank them for their important role. We also have to thank you, because $175,000 was allocated at the 2023 town meeting to support local agencies addressing youth behavioral problems. and that's certainly important. And we're going to see more of this, more collaboration with other organizations, because we really can't. I mean, we have a human services staff of essentially 1.5 people. The human services in this island are supported by nonprofits, so our basic function will be to support them. So Jericho is actually going to start focusing now on youth, seniors, non-majority language speakers. He also realizes, and this I say, I'm basically a scientist, that's what I like about Jericho, because he realizes that we have really lack of data as to the efficiency and efficacy of our human services, as well as specific outcome data. And so that assessment of the town's services is underway. He's concerned about how you spend your money. He's concerned that we actually do things correctly, and actually what we do, we get something for it. And that assessment is underway, as well as the needs assessment for the community. The hospital is also doing one, so we hope to actually coordinate that so we don't end up having 2 needs assessment at the same time. So I thank you all for your time, and let us keep this community healthy and vibrant.
Time now for questions. There's a microphone that's going to be roaming around, and you have to use the microphone because this is being broadcast and recorded, and the recording can't pick up your voice without the microphone. Regarding questions, please no monologues, soliloquies, or lectures. Make them questions. Please try to keep them concise. And no ad hominem remarks or issues. No ad hominem remarks. It's about issues, not people. And so with that, if you have a question, please raise your hand.
Hi. Thank you for the opportunity for a question. As part, and this involves several of you up there, Take It or Leave It is a beloved destination on this island, and yet it has been neglected. The employees there are few. There's only 2 of them, and they're just simply requesting protection from the heat, rain, thunderstorms, lightning, and from what I understand, there's been some planning, maybe some equipment ordered, but it's still not up. And it's a simple thing, but if Tioli could get a little bit of attention, a lot of people appreciate being able to go there and find things that they're looking for. It also needs monitoring on Sundays when it gets swarmed by people. And the 2 people that are working there, it's insufficient. Thank you.
I'm going to ask the DPW director to field that one.
Here he comes.
Thank you. Drew Patno, Director of Public Works. Thank you for your comment and question. We recently have done a bunch of renovations on the Take It or Leave It itself, the building. We've ordered sunshades for cover for the attendants. We provided PPE, and we ordered some shipping containers, one of which is actually kind of been outfitted to be like an office sort of break room space for them. We're also working on purchasing a new portable restroom trailer for Children's Beach. The one that's currently down at Children's Beach would be up at the Take It or Leave It, so that they have a restroom a little bit closer to their facilities. So we share your concern. We're certainly working very hard on improving the facilities for them. And then lastly, as far as the flow of goods into the facility, we've worked on kind of revamping how they take in and provide for taking by the residents the goods, and how they kind of flow through the facility to try to make it a little bit better for both our attendants and for the public. So hopefully that answers your question.
Hi, thank you. I guess this is to the DPW and also to Matt. In light of the recent accident that happened, I'm Randy Ringer, president of the Tom Never Civic Association. In light of the recent accident that happened on Tom Nevers Road, the need for the bike path is obviously becoming more and more urgent, and I know Mike Burns is working on that. In terms of some things that we might be able to do in the short term, if we could get the DPW to go out and run their sweepers down both sides of Tom Nevers Road so that the yellow line is visible, that would be helpful. And if you could take your large weed whacking machine and go down and clear in somewhat, it'll provide more room for walkers to be there. There's one other thing, and it is that the speed limit sign that has been put in on entering Sconset, I think is doing a really good job. And we had requested and offered to pay for 2 signs on Tom Nevers Road. We were told, though, that that is something that's going to have to go through town meeting. Because it changes certain bylaws as it relates to transportation. Question is if we can short circuit that and do a workaround on that and put those signs in. And as I said, the Tom Nevers Civic Association is willing to pay for them in both directions.
I'm going to hand this off. First off, I would say I would do it myself tomorrow, and Libby will correct me and tell me I'm not allowed to do that probably about the signs. But I'll let Drew and Mike talk about that. Tom Nevers has been on the radar, and we've known it's an important project for a long time. Part of what we're facing is there's so many needs, and we don't have enough staff and/or enough qualified staff to keep up with those needs. And even if we had all the money voted tomorrow, it's still going to take 10 or 15 years to do a lot of the stuff that needs to be done. And so that is why that's what we're trying to work through. It's a priority situation. I think that's, and I'm not trying to, and that isn't an excuse. That's just the reality. Is we have a lot of work and not a lot of people. There was one other point. Well, I guess if Drew or Mike want to speak to this. Oh, the other point, and I'll talk about is Ed Coffin has met with Drew and has driven with him, and he is on this, clean the sidewalks, clean the sand off, etc. And the DPW is working on it, and Drew will talk about that. So we have had some input and are listening and are working on it. But I'll let you.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. As he mentioned, we're well aware of Tom Nevers Road and a lot of other areas. For example, in the winter, we only salt the roads. We don't sand anymore, but that was a long time practice, so it's kind of an issue over the years where the shoulders of the roads have built up. So we're working on finding ways to address that, but certainly, to Matt's point, to do hundreds of miles of roadside grading is something that we certainly don't have the resources in-house to do. If we were to subcontract that out, we're talking millions and millions of dollars. So trying to be mindful about how we address that. I've already talked with my crew about an increased presence on Tom Nevers, both from a brush cutting and mowing standpoint, but also the street sweeping. But again, we have a lot of areas, and gravel side streets all down Tom Nevers certainly don't help. It's a sandbar. There's plenty of sand out there. So our guys are certainly working as hard as they can to maintain that road. With that being said, Mike Burns and I have been working on the Tom Nevers bike path. That design is nearly complete. We've already put in for a fiscal year 26 capital request for the construction funding. So it's a bit of a spoiler, but the goal is to implement that kind of as soon as possible. But to Matt's point, these things certainly don't happen overnight. But I think both the Tom Nevers Association and others on island recognize the importance of that project. So we're doing our best to move that along as expeditiously as we can.
I can add a little bit about the signs. We do have a bylaw that specifically prohibits the type of sign that is at the entrance to Sconset right now on all town roads, and it's on the entrance to Sconset because that is a state road. We have had numerous requests for those types of signs in different neighborhoods. So I suppose if the select board wanted to do a pilot somewhere, they could, but it's going to open up a lot of people saying, why here, not here? So I think what we've done so far is just say, if we want to change the bylaw, we'll change it at town meeting. And there will be quite a lot of discussion about it, I'm sure.
Thank you all very much for the work you're doing to help our town be better. I'm Tony Robinson, the new incoming president for Brant Point Association. And the Civic League has been wonderful in helping us all feel like we have a voice with each other. But how do we, as neighborhood associations, because we do have volunteers and there's lots of talent that's willing to step up, but how do we help you with some of the other things that we might be able to do to support the lack of, we see the challenges you have, we get it, but we feel a little bit like we'd like to do more, whether it's the sign project or other things, because we're all very open-minded to that.
So I would say I would encourage people to sign up for different boards and committees in their areas of interest. There are certain boards where you have to be a year-round resident, but that's not true for all of them. So, if transportation and safety, BPAC, bicycle and pedestrian safety, roads and right-of-ways, there are a number of town committees that work on these issues on a regular basis as advisors to the select board. So serving on those boards and committees is a great way to have your voice contribute to the process and to recommendations that come up through us. So that's probably my best recommendation, is get involved. Second. And also come to select board meetings. Go to those meetings. If you don't want to serve on them, go to them and have your voice heard, or come to select board meetings, watch our agendas, and participate in the discussion when things do rise to the board level. And we are getting regular updates from department heads on the strategic plan areas and the goals. So those are opportunities for the community members to come and attend, and you can attend online and speak in public comment on the items, whether you're present or not. So have your voice heard as often as possible, because it's important for us to hear people's different perspectives.
I'll add, if you have specific expertise, I had a contact board members or Libby, and she'll put you in contact with the people who are working on it. I had a summer resident contact me. He is in water, does a lot with water investment, and he and another individual here in the summer are both know a lot about PFAS and a lot about that whole industry, and so we've put them in contact with David Gray and Drew Patnode, and that expertise could help us. They don't have to necessarily be on a board to give their expertise and their contacts and their information and help us find a way forward on some of these tough issues.
And I would add, you don't have to be an expert in anything to volunteer, be curious, and to learn. I started out with zero knowledge of affordable housing 10 years ago. And so you can start somewhere, and literally, as Dawn said, going to the meetings of the area of interest, you can learn a lot, and then you feel comfortable then putting in your application. In fact, we prefer folks who've been to meetings as applicants, because it signals that they have demonstrated an interest and have, a working knowledge maybe of the topic, but just start somewhere.
I'm Liz Coffin, and I'm frequently found down at the Take It or Leave It, because I think it's one of the most vibrant functions that we have going. It crosses, as you know, it crosses class lines, economic lines. It serves a tremendous number of people, but it's dying of its own success. You have too many needs, people coming from outside Nantucket, even to come to our Take It or Leave It. You have people here year-round. You have the summer, second home people. So I was really glad to hear that you want more public engagement, but you're burning out your employees. You won't have them much longer if you can't support them better. My question to you is, since I'm a part of a group of the self-branded friends of the Take It or Leave It, can we go out there tomorrow or sometime this week and set up a temporary covering to protect your employees?
Drew Drew already addressed this question. I don't know whether you arrived.
I heard it. It didn't answer the immediate need.
They're under the sun now.
They're right under the sun. They're under the sun now and have been for the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, we did order sunshades for the staff that we have. We were waiting on some poles that are wind resistant or can stand up to the elements, and then our facilities team will be installing those shortly. So that is our plan. Again, additionally, we've ordered or purchased some shipping containers with a couple more on the way. Unfortunately, things don't happen overnight, but there's a lot of stuff in the works for our employees, and we certainly value them and do what we can to make their working conditions appropriate, and we'll continue to do so.
Why don't you speak with Drew after and see if...
Well, I think it needs to be heard together. All of us need to hear. If there's a time limit on protecting your employees immediately.
Okay.
We have time for one more question. If not, I have one. Go ahead.
Regarding the traffic, now I realize there's no silver bullet, and this suggestion is not going to really make that much of a difference, but why can't we compose a statement called Driving on Nantucket and send it to everybody on the island, pointing out the best ways to get to different places, what roads to avoid, and you also mentioned that we feel a little bit safer. I personally don't feel safer. I do a lot of walking in narrow lanes. They're not made for Range Rovers. I can't tell you how many people I see with their hand on one hand on the wheel, the other one talking on the telephone, zooming up these narrow lanes. Now, I know nobody can watch every particular area, but perhaps we could write some statement and send it out to people. Thank you.
I will follow up on that. I don't know what the mechanism would be for distribution, et cetera, but honestly, I bike a lot. I bike very defensively. I walk defensively. And I think Chief Casper could probably say it's impossible to enforce 100% of any rule. We don't have the people capacity. Okay, maybe a campaign of some kind. We'll think about it.
I have a quick question. About a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, there was talk between the town and Richmond Great Point Development about the creation of an impound lot for cars, I think at the airport. And I was wondering if there's any update on that, or if that's dead, or what's going on.
I'm not aware of any discussions between the town and Richmond for that. I've heard Richmond say that, but no one has contacted town administration about that. In the meantime, though, there is an individual who has responded to an RFP put out by the airport for an impound lot, and I believe that is underway. The airport manager's here if there's additional detail on that. There isn't really any town land available for an impound lot right now.
Thanks. I'll talk to the airport manager separately. Okay, thanks for your questions. It's time for Libby to do her thing.
Do my thing, okay. So I just generally like to go over what maybe has most recently occurred at the most recent town meeting, a little overview, and then some general town issues and projects to just mention. So at the 2024 annual town meeting, and a lot of people probably already know this, but just to put it in some kind of perspective, we had 112 articles on the warrant. As comparison, in 2023, we had 105. The articles are grouped. At 2024 town meeting, we had 22 zoning articles, 32 in 2023, 11 general bylaw amendments, 19 real estate articles, 15 home rule petitions, 9 of which were to be resubmitted. They were voted on for more than one time. and 27 citizen articles. We had 26 in 2023. We had 9 articles, appropriation articles, that were contingent upon ballot questions. We had 1 capital exclusion and 8 debt exclusions. Those had mixed votes, and what was approved was a supplemental appropriation for Newtown Road. There are some improvements, as Matt mentioned, in the works for that road. We approved an appropriation for debris removal, erosion control, and dune restoration at Tom Nevers. We approved the expansion of a lined landfill cell, reconstruction of Jetty's tennis courts, and we had a capital exclusion for DPW, fire, and other equipment and vehicles, which were approved. Our general fund budget for fiscal 2025, our current fiscal year that we just entered into, is $131 million, rounded. That is up about 12.5% over the prior fiscal year. And so, just so people know about that. Articles that generated the most discussion at the FinCom and/or Select Board level leading into the 2024 town meeting included short-term rental articles, car rental agencies, offshore wind. There was a home rule petition for department heads to be town employees, and there was quite a bit of discussion about a citizen article regarding the stretch code. We are currently still in the follow-up phase from the annual town meeting. There's a lot to do, as you might imagine, including gathering of certain articles that go to the Attorney General's office for approval. The home rule petitions get gathered together and go to the legislature for processing, and we have a lot of procurement underway for the various projects that require procurement, and there's sometimes work groups that get set up for various things. Our current town issues include a lot of big projects and other initiatives and discussions that are underway. For example, we have a special town meeting coming up on September 17th. For that special town meeting, we have 17 articles. 16 of those articles are sponsored by citizens. 6 are related to short-term rentals. And the timeline for Finance Committee and Planning Board review is posted on the town website. FinCom is meeting this afternoon at 4 o'clock. I think Planning Board is meeting today as well. We've spent a lot of time recently on right whale vessel reduction restrictions. Hopefully you've all have heard about it. And we're trying to get Nantucket Sound exempt from those restrictions. Hopefully we'll be successful. Otherwise, we're in for a real big adjustment. Island Home, as has been mentioned, is a very significant project, probably the biggest project we've ever undertaken. The Select Board strategic plan is always something going on there, and as mentioned, we have the focus areas that have been established, and I really want to acknowledge Greg Tivnan, Assistant Town Manager, for getting those together, and he's really been the runner of those things, so thank you, Greg, and a lot of other town staff involved as well. Personnel, we have a lot of effort going into hiring and retaining staff. And since the 2023 forum, sort of higher level hiring has included police chief, housing director, public works director, public health director. We have a new project manager starting this month, hopefully, the director of planning, and a real estate specialist. We have a lot of transportation projects underway. We also have sewer and stormwater projects underway. As was mentioned, the waste services agreement, RFP, to operate the landfill is out. That contract expires at the end of 2025, so we're hopefully well within the time frame to get a new contract in place before the current one expires. PFAS is taking a very significant amount of time. Again, I want to recognize Greg for helping lead that effort. We have a lot of things going on with PFAS, including island-wide assessments of town property. We have a lot of citizens requesting information. We had a forum, joint select board public Board of Health meeting a couple of weeks ago. We're planning another forum sometime, hopefully later this summer or into the fall. We have been trying to get a meeting with the Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, to discuss with them what are the town's obligations with respect to a variety of issues with regarding PFAS, because like I said, we're getting a lot of questions. Facilities maintenance is something we're really focused on, including employee housing, both employee housing that we are renting from others and housing that the town owns that we are renting. There's a lot of activity that goes into managing those facilities. We're exploring AI, and we had a little bit of insight into that from our IT director, Mike Alvarez, who's sitting over there behind Greg and Rick. He gave a nice departmental update at the board meeting last week. Cybersecurity, of course, is something that is very much focused on throughout the town. And the Town Council Study Committee is meeting very often and looking at the form of government that we have and whether or not it's going to recommend a change. And I understand that most recently they are preparing to recommend that the town move to a town council form of government. And that will most likely be coming before the 2025 annual town meeting. So lots of projects on the horizon and in the planning stages as well. Just overview, Island Home, as we mentioned. The senior center will follow closely behind that. The plan there is that there would be a new Island Home at the Sherburne Commons site, and the old Island Home property would be repurposed for the senior center. There is no intent to sell that property. I sometimes hear that, and that is not any discussion by the board on that. In fact, they have voted not to do that. DPW facility, we're planning for a new facility out in the Shadbush Road area. It's town-owned property. And the seasonal employee housing that was mentioned on Waite Drive. There are a lot of sewer projects in the Surfside Road area. I know they seem like they are never ending. Even I sometimes think, when are these things going to end? But they're pretty, they're very extensive projects that cannot be done in one season. So those are all underway. I just wanted to mention our outreach efforts. I think by last year's forum we had established our communications division within town administration. We have a communications manager as well as a public outreach coordinator, and they are very active on Instagram, Threads, Twitter, the town website. We have NCT coverage of pretty much all of the town's regulatory boards, committees, and commissions. We have a town manager e-newsletter that goes out once a month. And we have engaged a professional communications firm to assist with messaging of things that might require specific expertise and or focus that we really want to get out there to people. So those are things that we're working on, and I guess general questions at this point?
We've got plenty of time for questions, so let them have it.
Libby, Randy Ringer, president of the Tom Nevers Civic Association. Libby, can you give an update on the timing for the cleanup of the Tom Nevers Beach debris?
I'm going to turn that to our sustainability program coordinator, Vince Murphy, who's been working on that project.
Thank you, Libby. Vince Murphy. Microphones traditionally hate me. Everyone can hear me okay? Okay. So we had 3 storms in a row in January that changed the face of the bluff so significantly we had to revisit how we're going to undertake the works, how the design is going to do, how put in place. So we're in a reevaluation phase to see how that's going to be put in place, how it's going to get done. The time at the moment I don't have a good answer on, because we need to understand what it's going to look like before we can enter the construction phase. But as I understand it, and open to correction, there is funds set aside for the construction phase once we're ready with designs.
Anybody else? I have a question. There's a giant pile of sand outside Naushop on Old South Road, and I wonder if anybody's complaining about that, and if anything can be done about that. It's incredibly unsightly.
Oh, people are complaining about it, all right. And I would turn it to Paul, building commissioner.
So the sand I'm Paul Murphy, the building commissioner. The sand pile shouldn't be there. People have been complaining about it. So I sent an enforcement order about a month ago directing the property owner to remove it. And as of today's date, the enforcement order has been ignored. So I've referred the matter to town council for additional steps.
And prosecution? No.
That's unclear, yeah.
They did lower it fairly dramatically the other day. I mean, they took it down probably to the height limitation, but they did it by creating a second pile. And they've also added jersey barriers and now fences with signs that say "keep out" on it. So it's just really getting bad.
I'd like to add one thing. Actually, the health department and the Board of Health is aware of that, and we consider it a health hazard. And the strategy would be to, we also have some enforcement policy, and we're going to wait and see what happens with the building inspector, and then we'll move forward if we have to.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, well, Peter.
I'm Peter Morrison, co-president of the Civic League, and I want to put in a pitch for the WPI, Worcester Polytechnic Institute student teams. I'm kind of the one-man band that goes around trying to gin up projects that the Civic League can co-sponsor. And the ideas for those projects can emanate from our neighborhood associations. They can also emanate from anybody who is working with the town. Each year, the Civic League tries to co-sponsor such a project, and I liken them to the free $50,000 McKinsey consulting study that can take an idea that's ready for that study, but the money isn't there. They'll put it together and they'll give you something that gives you the notion of what to do next. So we're looking for good ideas right now. I'm working the fire chief, I'm working Vince Murphy. I've actually got in place with Vince Murphy and the Coastal Resilience Plan, sort of an ongoing set of, what's the next step and how can we throw this into a project that gets studied by a team of 4 or 5 above average undergraduates who are going to come up with the next step. Thank you.
Peter, what's the timeline for having to get a project into you?
I start looking into this around April, and then I talk with Dominic Golding in May. And it doesn't have to be through me, it can be through the town, but if you come up with an idea and you want the Civic League to honcho it, you could just turn it over to us and I'll be the one-man band and I'll show up at the weekly meetings and say, this is a great idea, what's the next step? Thanks.
Anybody else? Well, this has been great. I was on the ferry back last week and I was reading a review of a new documentary called Join or Die. It's really interesting. It's a documentary about a guy named Robert Putnam who wrote the book Bowling Alone in 2000. That book and the film emphasized the necessity of community involvement in keeping democracy working. And since 2000, when that book was written, things have probably gotten worse instead of better, especially with the effect of COVID. And so it makes you wonder, it made me think about how great Nantucket is, because we really don't suffer a lot of the effects that most of America is suffering with respect to community involvement. We're a very vibrant community. You see it here today. I think it's fantastic. So I'd like to suggest a big round of applause for our select board members, our town manager, and the town staffers who are here today. Thank you very much.